so much for having me here. Can everyone hear me all right? All right, very good. All right, got a few yeses. All right, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for taking the time to join me today. As mentioned, today we're going to be talking about how to build mailing lists, how to find reviewers. StoryOrigin is a marketing tool that can help you to build your mailing list, to find reviewers, increase sales, manage deadlines, work with beta readers, do newsletters, watch group promos, blah, 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 blah. A lot of different stuff. Just quick background on how I built StoryOrigin. Basically, a few years ago, I went and I talked to, back in high school, I used to write short stories. And then I got interested in entrepreneurship in college, spent a few years working. And then at one point is time to decide, okay, now's the time to do something. I decided I wanted to get back into writing and to build tools for writers at the same time. So I went and I talked to authors, and I basically heard, okay, I use this tool for delivering my freebies. I use this other thing to find reviewers. I use this other thing to create universal book links. I, use some combination of Facebook groups and Google Forms to manage newsletter swaps. I use some combination of email and Word docs and Google Drive to manage beta copies. And I was like, wow, okay, this sounds like a lot of work and a lot of context switching between all of these different tools, services, logins, spreadsheets, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I decided to build StoryOrigin, which is a one-stop shop to manage sort of everything. So that's not to say that's what the conversation today is going to be about, though. We are going to be talking about mailing list building, and StoryOrigin has some tools to help make a lot of this process easier for you, but you do not need to use StoryOrigin to do the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about today. You could always, use those combos of things that we're talking, you could use Dropbox, or you could use Google Drive, or, set stuff up on your own website and do all of these different things. So someone asked, repeat my last name is Evan Gow, Gow. Sounds like cow or rhymes with cow, but with a G. Anyway, so cool. Yeah, you don't need to be using StoryOrigin to do the stuff we're going to be talking about today. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So I'm going to share my screen here, and let's see, go into slideshow view. Awesome. So just a quick broad overview of the author marketing landscape in general. So if you look at platforms for advertising, generally ad bids are increasing across, Facebook, Amazon, wherever you might do advertising, impression-based advertising, because all of those systems are built on auctioning off that space. And so as more people get into marketing, as more authors get into marketing, generally those bids will continue to increase. So it gets harder and harder to make money off of those ads as those bids increase. The other thing is social media. For example, having a Facebook page used to be, the timeline was all, just based on the timestamp, the time that you posted. If someone's browsing, Facebook at the time that you post something, then they will show up. That will show up in their feed. It's all algorithmic now. So basically, people only see your posts if Facebook decides to show your post to them. So essentially, your probability that a post is going to show up in someone's timeline is like 1 to 3% if you're doing a good job, which it's very difficult to do a good job. The other thing is also just that rates of review on products in general just tends to be really low. It's really hard to get reviews, but it is something that everybody that is selling things online has to do, because something like 90+% of people, the first thing that they do when they go to look at a book or other product on Amazon or wherever, they check the reviews first before looking at anything else, the book description, anything. So it's really important to make sure that you are, it's really challenging to get reviews. So we're going to try to fix all of this. See. So the way to do that is with email, which is kind of funny because email is like this archaic thing, right? It's like 40 plus years old at this point, but it's the thing that actually works best because you can actually build real relationships with people. So I'm gonna pull a couple of quotes from a couple of authors here who have built their email list. And so Danny says, my email list allowed me to generate reviews and launch the book to the #1 new release in Gaslight Fantasy for the first week of release. Caleb says, my mailing list is a major component of my to the marketing of my book. Without it, I would be dead in the water. I'm sure that, a lot of you have already heard from many other authors how important having a mailing list is. So I won't spend a ton of time on these quotes. Suffice it to say that having a mailing list is definitely an important thing to do and is really valuable. So the stuff we're going to be talking about today is stuff that you can start to apply today, regardless of whether or not you've even published a book yet. So this isn't something that you're going to need to wait 3 months before you go and start doing it. This is stuff that you can start working on today. Quick mailing list 101. You want to, when you have a newsletter, when you've got a mailing list, you're going to want to use an email service provider. Those are services like MailerLite, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, SendFox, AuthorEmail, lots of different email service providers. And they're different than something like Gmail or Yahoo, etc. For example, email service providers help you comply with GDPR, CAN spam, various regulations around data. Also, those email service providers allow you to send over 1,000 emails in a single day. And I know a lot of people might be thinking like, send over 1,000 emails in a single day. When am I ever going to do that? Trust me, you will get there sooner than you think. Because once you've got over 1,000 people on your mailing list and you want to send them all an email, it will happen that you need to send an email, more than 1,000 emails in a single day. And yeah, it will definitely happen faster than you expect. The other thing, they help you avoid getting categorized as spam, and they do a lot of nice analytics around tracking open rates, click rates, unsubscribes, etc. for you. So definitely a service that you want to use. MailerLite and MailChimp, they've got, free plans up to either 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers, depending on who you're talking about. There's also a lot of affordable email service providers like SendFox or AuthorEmail. I recommend, MailerLite is a good way to just get started out because they've got a generous free tier and they allow you to do a lot of good stuff with automations and things on that free tier as well. So it's a good one to check out. I'll go. I think someone raised their hand. I'm not sure if their hand is still raised. Might have just been an accident. And I got but if anyone has questions, you can just pop them into, Kim says it was an oopsie. No worries, Kim. You can pop them into the Q&A or into the chat and I'll do them. So you don't need to raise your hand. I'll just put them in the chat and I'll address them as I can. And Nancy had a question about getting offers from reviewers and influencers on Instagram. How do I sort through valid reviews? This is something that we're going to be covering a little bit later in this presentation. And Beth asked, will we get the link to these slides afterwards? Yes, I will. I'll send the slides out to Alexa, and she can get them out to you guys. So getting back to it. So yes, you want an email service provider to actually, track your mailing list and to send out your newsletters. But why would someone actually want to sign up to your mailing list? This is like the initial question you have to ask, right? Why would someone want to sign up to get newsletters from me where I would be then basically, trying to get them to buy my books. So you have to show them that there is value to joining your mailing list. And one of the best ways to show value to someone is by giving them a free story in order which you will give to them when they sign up to your mailing list. This is often referred to as a reader magnet. A reader magnet doesn't need to be a story per se. If you're a nonfiction author, it might be something like a workbook or flashcards or something else of the sort. But for fiction authors, what works best would be a free story because they're looking for stories. So my recommendation for what to use as a reader magnet is to use if you're a fiction author, again, use a 10 to 20,000 word short story prequel to your book or your series. And there's a few reasons why. So you can use the great thing about a prequel is that it hooks readers into wanting to read the follow-up book. And the other great thing to do is if you use a prequel as a reader magnet, put chapters 1, 2, or 3, however many you want, at the end of that prequel. So that way, readers who read that prequel will start on reading book 1 in that series. And then that gives them a much better, that's will be a cliffhanger for them to really jump into and want to buy into book 1. It also provides an effective introduction to your universe. So there are other types of things you might use as a reader magnet, like a side story or sort of a different sort of character story. Those things usually will require some, or you might use like a bonus chapter for your book. Those kinds of things would require that the person has read book 1 in the series or understands your universe. With a prequel, generally you can explain your universe, so you don't need to worry that the person has read book 1 in the series. The other great thing is that it also entices readers who have read book 1 in the series. So a person picks up your book 1 in your series, reads through it, gets to the end, they see, oh, I can actually explore this universe in more depth and read the prequel, and I can get it for free when I sign up to the author's mailing list. That is a great way to turn some of your most avid readers, your super fans, get them onto your mailing list is by having the link for exploring your universe in more depth at the back of your book. So why a 10 to 20,000 word short story? So if it's too long, you're going to decrease your read through rate, right? The longer your book gets, the less likely it is that someone is actually going to finish reading it. If it's too short, though, then readers might feel shortchanged, right? If someone signs up to my mailing list and I give them a 500-word short story, they will feel like they weren't really getting what they expected because they were expecting a story. And 500 words is usually not really, wouldn't be what I would call like a story, a fully fleshed out story. So 10 to 20,000 words is a good sweet spot for that. The other thing is we are giving this away for free, but it still needs to be polished because for a lot of readers, this will be their introduction to you as an author. So maybe even more so than your book 1 in your series, that reader magnet needs to be well edited, and not have a bunch of plot holes, grammatical errors, typos, etc. Because you do want to show them, this is what reading my other books will be like. Let's see. I'm going to scroll through the comments here real quick, just to check for any questions. Let's see. Someone asked whether or not Wix can be used as an email service provider. Wix does have an email service that you can use them. And then let's see. That's good. StoryOrigin has one thing to mention about email service providers real quick is StoryOrigin has integrations with 9 different email service providers. So a lot of them. So when someone signs up to get your reader magnet via StoryOrigin, StoryOrigin will automatically add them to your email list on MailChimp or MailerLite or, 7 other email service providers. So it takes a lot of that, takes a lot of work out of it for you as the author. So how does it actually work? Again, you could do this on your own website. You can set this all up. This is how it looks on StoryOrigin though. What you need is you need a landing page where someone can request that book. Here we would see the book cover, the description. They hit a button that says get the story. When they hit that button, that will pop up a little dialog box where they can enter their name and email address. And then that info is either you can download it as a CSV from StoryOrigin, or you can have StoryOrigin automatically zip it over to your email service provider and have it added to a specific mailing list. The second part that you need when you're delivering freebies is you need a way for them to download the file. So on StoryOrigin, they get this file download page, and that gives them various options for whatever file type that they need for whatever their preferred reading device is and preferred method of getting that download onto their reading device. StoryOrigin also handles all the customer support. So if a reader runs into an issue where they're having trouble getting the file on whatever their preferred reading device is, they can just send an email back and we'll help them out help them out with any troubles that they run into. I'm gonna hop on a few other questions here. So what is a suggested reader magnet for memoirs? That's a good question. You might do like a side story or something like that related to one of your moments in your life from your memoir where you explore it in more depth. That might make for a good reader magnet. Really, the things with reader magnets, just in general, that you want to try to do is you want to make sure that the reader magnet is the same genre that you write. So if you write, steamy romance, you wouldn't want your reader magnet to be clean romance, right? Because if you write a clean romance reader magnet and then someone signs up to your mailing list and then they go in buy book 1, they'll be getting something that they did not expect, right? Because a lot of like clean romance readers won't be interested in steamy romance. And so you just want to make sure that your whatever it is that you're using as a reader magnet is in the same subgenre as your paid works as well. In terms of how does this work with a children's picture book, you can also still have, electronic copies of picture books as well. So you'd make those electronic files. You'd make the EPUB, Mobi, whatever, PDF for your work. And readers would just download that onto whatever their preferred e-reading device is. If they're requesting a children's picture book, then that reader would understand that they're getting it electronically. So they probably have like an iPad or tablet or something that that would make it easy for them to read on. The other question is it a good idea to use the first couple of chapters of your book as a magnet? Yes, you can absolutely do that. So while I recommend using a prequel short story as a reader magnet, that is by no means like a strict rule that you have to follow or anything like that. I always recommend tear down whatever roadblocks you put in your way. Tear down any roadblocks that you have that would prevent you from getting started today. So if you've got a book 1 for sale and you don't have a prequel short story that you've written, and for whatever reason, it's going to take you 2 months to write that story and get it edited, then just take the first couple of chapters out of your book, use that as a sample or preview version, put that up as a reader magnet, and let people request those first few chapters of your book and sign up to your mailing list to get those first few chapters. Now, it's not what I recommend because usually you'll find that people are more hesitant to sign up for a mailing list when they know that they're only getting a partial story, not a full story, and they know that they're going to be left with a cliffhanger. So it's less enticing to readers. The other thing is just that when you do have that as a reader magnet, it's just a little bit more difficult to use it in other contexts, right? So like a prequel is good as a reader magnet at the back of book 1 too, versus you couldn't use a sample as a reader magnet and put the link at the back of book 1 where they would be getting chapters 1 through 3 of that same book. So you can use a reader magnet that is separate from your other works, can have a little bit more versatility. That being said, again, if it's going to take you 2 months to write and edit that prequel or whatever you want to use as your reader magnet, go ahead and use a sample of that book 1 to get started with building your mailing list, because it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a amount of time to build your mailing list and to get started and working out all of those little kinks and things. So the sooner that you can get started, the better for sure. This also goes back to, just talking about how we can start to build our mailing list today, even if we don't have a published book. There's a great thing that you can do, which is you can use that sample of your book 1 as a reader magnet, even if it's not published yet. Put that up, and then start building your mailing list. And then when the full book is ready to go, when it is ready to be published and on sale, you've already built a mailing list and built interest in that book 1. So you've got an audience to launch to instead of launching to crickets. So definitely not a bad idea. If that's how you can get started today, absolutely do it. So let's see. Is the idea of sending out the first 1 to 3 chapters of your book only if you plan to self-publish, not seek a traditional publisher, or might that help attract publishers if you get a great response? So this would all be dependent upon, the sort of publishers that you're looking at. And usually I can't say that this is, strictly always the case, but usually if you bring your own audience to the table, that makes you much more attractive to traditional publishers, because you're actually bringing an audience with you rather than, them having to market you as a new author. You're bringing your own audience to the table. It just makes you more attractive. So using a sample of your work as a reader magnet, I would say usually publishers would not see that as a problem if you use that as a reader magnet and it was out there to publish the full work. But again, it's very much a case by case basis with traditional publishers. I would recommend just, again, using like a prequel or something that you're not planning to publish, and make it like a newsletter exclusive thing where readers can only get that story if they join your mailing list. And then that makes it more of a exclusive thing, and that also shows the value in readers' minds as well. Getting a lot of other questions about what types of things you might use as a reader magnet. So I won't keep going over this topic. But yeah, anyone is also welcome to shoot me an email after this. If you go to storyoriginApp.com, my email address, if you just go to the contact page, you'll see my face, you'll see my email address. You're welcome to reach out to me. My inbox is always open. You can also see the full list of email service providers that StoryOrigin integrates with on StoryOrigin's homepage as well. So where do you actually promote your reader magnet? You've got this landing page where people can sign up to your mailing list and get the book, but how do people actually find that link? So as we've already mentioned a couple of times, putting the link at the back of your book or putting the link at the front of your book are great places for readers to discover that you've got that reader magnet, and then they can join your mailing list and get that story for free. Second place would be author websites or blog posts would be another great place. You can put it, across social media, or even boost those posts on social media as well. Usually, I won't say usually, but for a lot of authors, having someone on their mailing list is of more value than making an individual sale, because when you have someone on your mailing list and they've gotten that story from you, you can let them know about every single new release that you have. And so when they follow you and they like your work, that person will become, it's almost more like a subscription thing where they've you've got them on your mailing list. And so now they can know about every single new release and they'll buy each release. Versus if you are advertising a single book for sale and you don't have books 2 or books 3 or book 4, etc. out yet, and the only thing they might buy is that book 1, and then they don't have anywhere to turn after that, that is not as valuable, because when they're on your mailing list, if you don't have book 2, book 3, book 4 out, etc., then when they're on your mailing list, you can let them know about those new releases, versus if they just bought it, they might buy it and then not ever see that you've released a book 2 or book 3, etc. in that series or universe. So mailing lists can be more valuable than just advertising a straight sale. Lastly, you can also promote those reader magnets, those landing pages for your free stories that readers get when they sign up to your mailing list, through email cross promotions with other authors. So email cross promotions are growing super quickly, and there's a few reasons why. Number one is it's free. So if me and another author agree to cross promote each other, I'll say, hey, I'll put one of your books in one of my newsletters, and you put one of my books in one of your upcoming newsletters. We don't need to pay each other to do that. We're just agreeing to promote each other. It's super easy to do. You don't need to figure out some complicated ads dashboard, bidding strategies, targeting, etc., like you do with advertising, right? It's all it is a matter of, hey, I'll promote your book in my next newsletter, and then that's just on me to just put a link to their book in my newsletter. There's no like complicated algorithms I need to sort out, right? Lastly, it's targeted by genre. So if I am a sci-fi author, I will cross promote books with other sci-fi authors so that I know that my book is being shared with an audience that will actually, that I know will appreciate my book because they're on that other sci-fi author's mailing list. So I know their audience is going to like that. Yeah, it's, that is why email cross promotions are so popular and growing. So there are two different types of email cross promotions. There are newsletter swaps, where you and another author agree to promote each other's books directly in your newsletters. So that's like what I was saying. I'll promote your book in one of my newsletters if you promote one of my books in one of your newsletters. And you can see here in this example, I've just put a book cover for Bram Stoker's Dracula into my newsletter. So when a reader clicks that, they'll be taken to the book. And then there are group promos. So a group promo is where you and a group of authors agree to promote, usually through your newsletters and social media, a single landing page showing all of your books. So let's say me, you, and 20 other sci-fi authors, we'll all list all our books on a single landing page, and then we all drive traffic to that single landing page. And then we all benefit from all of our audiences seeing all of those books. So here's how this would sort of mechanically work in your newsletter. This is a newsletter swap. I put Bram Stoker's Dracula in my newsletter. When someone clicks on that book cover, it will then take them to the landing page for that book. Now here, the landing page is for a reader magnet on StoryOrigin. So someone could request that book and join that author's newsletter. But it doesn't have to be for a reader magnet. StoryOrigin also, you can set up universal book links. So readers would be directed to retailers, like wherever you have the book for sale, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, etc. Or it could be for review copy where you're trying to find reviewers, etc. So it doesn't have to be for reader magnets specifically. You can basically tailor your newsletter swaps to whatever your goal is at that time, whether you are trying to grow your mailing list, trying to find reviewers, trying to increase sales, whether that's of audiobooks or ebooks, of any of those one of those things. So you can basically target your newsletter swaps at whatever goal you have in mind. Same goes for group promos. So group promos, you can promote your reader magnets or universal book links, review copies, etc. But here, what I've done in my newsletter is I've taken the banner image from that group promo and I put it in the newsletter. So you see that banner image. When a reader clicks on that banner image, it will take them to the landing page showing all the authors' books in that group promo. And then readers can go through and click on whichever books they are interested in. So we can all either build our mailing list or find reviewers or increase our sales together as a group. Some common questions I get about reader magnets is, can I use a book in KU as a reader magnet? And according to Amazon's KDP knowledge base, you can give away up to 10% of your book as a reader magnet. And the reason that this is Amazon basically, readers can already click to see a preview of your book on Amazon and read approximately the first 10% of the book anyway. So Amazon says, hey, we let readers read 10% of your book on Amazon already. So if you also want to let your readers read 10% of your book and you want to give that away, that's fine, because we already do it. Another common question I get is, can I join cross promos if I have 0 subscribers? And the answer is yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter whether or not you have two subscribers, 1 subscriber, 0 subscribers. You can get started with cross promotions. A lot of the authors that you'll find on StoryOrigin, or just authors in Facebook groups or wherever else, right, that are running cross promotions, a lot of those authors were in your shoes where they had 0 subscribers, maybe not more than a couple of weeks ago, maybe not more than a couple of months ago. And usually they are more than willing to lend a helping hand to someone who is also just starting out, because they know exactly what it was like to just be starting out as well. The other thing is, whether or not I've got 5 people on my mailing list or 5,000 people on my mailing list, there's essentially the way that you want to write your newsletter is you want to provide value to your readers and you want to build personal rapport with them. So usually the contents of a newsletter will be, some personal updates, things I might be interested, things I'm watching or reading, etc. And those help me build personal rapport with my readers. But then the second part of my newsletter is those cross promotions that I'm sharing. So those reader magnets or universal book links, those books from other authors that my readers can check out. And it's a really valuable part of my newsletter because I can become the source of recommendations for my readers. And by giving my readers something to check out, that gives them a lot of value. So if I only sent out newsletters about, here's personal updates, here's a picture of my dog every single week, that's not super valuable to my subscribers. But if I pair that those personal updates and stories with other books that might interest them, that has a combo of helping me build rapport with my audience and also giving them something of value by giving them things that they can check out. So whether or not I've got 5 people or 5,000 people on my mailing list, I'm always looking for other things to promote because that gives value to my audience. So a lot of authors that have really huge mailing lists are still more than happy to promote authors with really tiny mailing lists, just because they need something to share with their audience, every week or every couple of weeks or every month, however frequently they send out their newsletter. Before we jump into this last common question, I'm going to hit a few questions we have from the Q&A here. So what's the difference between StoryOrigin and other services? So, whether or not you're talking about, so StoryOrigin is basically a one-stop shop. So at the beginning, as I was talking about, I built StoryOrigin because I heard from authors, okay, I use this service for delivering my freebie. I use this other service for finding reviewers. I use this other service for creating universal book links. I use a different service for, managing my beta copies, or use some combination of Google Docs and Word and email, etc. And I have some other spreadsheet for like tracking my word count goals. and like making sure that I'm going to hit my deadlines. StoryOrigin does all of that stuff. So StoryOrigin overlaps with a lot of different services because StoryOrigin basically does everything. So if you're ever wondering like, oh, what is the difference between StoryOrigin and XYZ? It's StoryOrigin does that plus a bunch of these other things as well. And that doesn't mean that you can't use those other services or get value out of those other services. You certainly can get value out of those other services. You don't have to just use StoryOrigin to do all these things, but StoryOrigin makes it easy to do all those things from one place. And then you can use other things as you want or need if you also get value out of using those services as well. Let's see, what other questions do we have? Let's see. Question about how I should plan for a book cover with the book being edited. This is something that I would say that is probably more specific to your case, but if you have questions on that kind of thing, you can certainly reach out to me individually. Let's see, another question. I've been an author for 2 years and didn't know anything about the marketing side. I started out with 0 subscribers and now have 5 so far, so it's working. That is awesome. Every little milestone is huge and I love it. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to authors who have gotten, lots of subscribers very, very quickly by doing cross promotions. So, even starting out with 0 people on their mailing list, and if you actually go to StoryOrigin and you hit the tutorials tab at the top, you'll see there are video tutorials for each of the features on StoryOrigin, but there are also case studies from other authors that you can check out, and I highly recommend reading those case studies about mailing lists and how to create welcome sequences, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, but in the words of an author who has done it, and what they've experimented with and what how it has worked for them. So, and again, all of that advice that they talk about in those case studies and stuff applies regardless of whether or not you choose to use StoryOrigin specifically or not. You can do all of the stuff that we're talking about regardless of whether or not you choose to use StoryOrigin. So when doing let's see, can a small anthology of short stories within your genre / subgenre work as a reader magnet? Yes, absolutely. A group, a combo of short stories would work great. Again, I would recommend if you're doing like an anthology of short stories, and then you've got like a book 1 in a series, put the first few chapters of that book 1 at the back of that anthology, so it gets readers into reading book 1 in your series or whatever you have. That way they have like a cliffhanger in it and they're enticed into purchasing that follow-up book. When doing group promotions, do you read the other authors' books to make sure you are not putting substandard books in front of your readers? I would say no, you do not need to read other authors' books when you are cross-promoting them. That would be incredibly difficult to do, especially if you're running, a newsletter where you're sending your newsletter once a week or twice a month or once a month, to read, 5 or 6 books, or, if you're doing a group promotion, reading 20 books, all within a month before you send out your newsletter. So how do you sort of thread that needle where you are promoting other authors' books in your newsletter, but you are also, you also haven't necessarily read all of them? Some of you might have read, but you haven't necessarily read all of them. The framing that I recommend is that you are agreeing to mention those other books in your newsletter. You are not agreeing to recommend those books in your newsletter. So what many authors do is they'll have a section in their newsletter that will say something along the lines of, here are other books for you to check out. And the framing is not, hey, I recommend buying these books and reading them. These are, hey, these are other books that are in this genre that, I think you might find interesting. And then it is for those readers to go and check out the books, look at the reviews, read the descriptions, check out the book covers, see if they actually like them. Because this applies regardless of whether anytime you make share anything with your audience, you're never going to be able to guarantee that everyone on your mailing list is going to like any particular book, right? It might be the world's best book, but there is someone on your mailing list who is not going to like it. So getting too hung up on that would mean that you would never share any other books, right? So there's always sort of a spectrum there. And what I recommend is just framing it as, here's other things for you to check out that I think you might find interesting. We'll get into newsletter frequency a little bit later, but I recommend sending twice a month. And then let's see, what do you consider a successful rate of emails open click through? I would say an open rate of 30 to 40% is pretty good. And a click rate of, somewhere between like 3 to 5% is pretty good from there. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, if you have like a list of like 5,000 people, but your open rate is 10%, and your click rate is like 0.5% or something like that, that is probably not a great, that is not a great open or click rate. And you've got a lot of people who are not opening your emails. It's probably time to scrub those people from your mailing list that are not opening or clicking on your emails. But that being said, it also depends on who your email service provider is, right? If you're using a really affordable email service provider and you just can have 10,000 people on your list and it doesn't cost you anything more to have, 10,000 people on your mailing list versus having 5,000 people on your mailing list, a lot of authors will be like, well, what's the point of scrubbing people? It doesn't cost me anything more to leave them on the list. So it really depends on who your email service provider is, whether or not you want to spend a time on scrubbing people from your mailing list and how frequently you want to do that. It's just a matter of affordability there. Let's see. So someone asked, how much does what does StoryOrigin offer and how much does it cost? StoryOrigin is $10 a year or $100 per month. There's a lot of stuff that it does, like I said a couple of times. And I'm not going to cover all of that stuff today because it does a lot. But yeah, it's more, it's given the amount of things that does, authors usually tell me that, Evan, StoryOrigin is totally underpriced. And I am fine with that. I want it to be affordable to authors who are just starting out and have 0 people on their mailing list. And someone, sorry, did I say $10 a year or $100 per month? Sorry, I meant $10 per month or $100 per year. Super affordable. Because I want it to be, accessible to authors who like aren't making any money from their books yet. I don't want it to be prohibitively expensive for anybody. So, all right, let's get back into things. I'm gonna hold off on answering more questions because I really want to get through all of the stuff we've got today. What do I do when someone signs up to my mailing list? So you want to send them a welcome email. The goals of your welcome sequence are to ensure that they've received the download, remove freebie seekers, and also find your champions. So how do you do that? Before we get into it, though, I want to tell you about how I frame my newsletter and how I frame sort of my welcome sequence. I like to treat people on my mailing list like they are a friend that I'm bringing to a party, right? So when I bring a friend to a party, I don't like leave them at the table and then go say, hi, okay, bye. I'm going to go hang out with my other friends now that you don't know. No, I bring a friend to a party and I introduce them to my other friends at the party. I ask them questions to engage them in the conversation so that they can get to know the other people. And then I might share personal stories that we've had as a group or whatever, so that that person can start to understand my relationship with other people in that group at that party, right? So making this actionable to writing a newsletter. When you write your newsletter, you want to write it to an individual, not to a group. So my newsletters, I'll always say, hey, so and so. I don't say, hey gang, hey y'all, hey group, hey guys, anything like that. I always make sure that I'm addressing it to an individual. And it's super easy to do with most email service providers to have it set up where that you can have it, their first name populated into the email. Second thing is I like to share personal stories or pictures in my newsletter. For any authors that are signed up to my newsletter, they'll know that a couple of weeks ago that it was so hot here in Texas. It rained, and then it got so hot so quickly that I could see the water evaporating into steam coming off of the fence, which is quite crazy. I've never seen that in my life before, but I put that picture in my newsletter because it's just interesting to me. And so sharing that kind of stuff makes for great newsletter, because people can actually connect with you on things that they might be like, oh yeah, that thing has happened to me before, or I've never seen that before. Lastly is you might also want to create a forum for readers to meet each other. A lot of authors might do this as like a Facebook group. That way your readers can get to know each other. This is like you introducing your friend to the other people in your crew, into your tribe. So what do I recommend as the email welcome sequence? So let's go through a template here. So email 1 is your thank you and freebie email. So this would be triggered either immediately after someone has signed up to your mailing list, or like an hour after they've subscribed. It should be pretty quickly after they've subscribed to your mailing list. And the subject would be something like download your free copy of, XYZ Reader Magnet, whatever the title of your story is. Again, StoryOrigin already provides them with a download if they're coming through that download through that Reader Magnets feature on StoryOrigin. So that reader has probably already gotten the download from StoryOrigin, but by providing them the download in your welcome sequence as well, helps them to combine sort of a face, or a name with the book that they just downloaded, and that email address with the book that they just downloaded, so that they can make that connection. And then you can use the direct downloads feature on StoryOrigin, which doesn't require someone to sign up to your mailing list. You can just use that in order to provide a download to people in your welcome sequence. And this is great if you've got people that are also joining your mailing list, not coming from StoryOrigin as well. So if they've signed up to your mailing list through MailChimp or through your MailerLite, subscriber form, and they get added into that welcome sequence, having the direct download page there to provide them the download, even if they didn't come from StoryOrigin, is a really easy way to handle providing them the download, because again, StoryOrigin handles all of the customer support for making sure that they get it on whatever their preferred reading device is. The other thing I recommend is putting a personal picture or story from your Facebook group or forum into that email. That way you can also just start to build some rapport with your audience. In the call to action for this first email, I would say, have them join the Facebook group or forum would be the call to action. Or if you don't have a Facebook group or forum, which you certainly do not need to do, I only recommend setting up a Facebook group or forum if that is something that you like to do and you want to spend time on, and you already spend a time on Facebook anyway, then this might be a good thing to do. But if you don't like to spend time on Facebook, don't have that be your call to action. Your call to action should always be about having ways to engage that subscriber. So you might ask them a question. Usually you want it to be something that's simple to answer and something that people have opinions on, right? I was talking to an author another day. One of her questions is, do you prefer camping, or do you prefer a 5-star hotel? So it's easy to answer, right? Because pick option A or B, and people kind of have like opinions on camping versus not. So that's a good way to get engaged with your readers. And obviously you would want that question tied to whatever your personal story is that you shared in that email. So it makes it relevant. Email 2 in your welcome sequence should be about introducing yourself and your community. would want to have this email be sent either like 1 to 3 days after the reader has subscribed. The subject might be something like my first love, or how I joined the underworld, or genre is the best and here's why. For the content, I would recommend a personal story related to your genre, and again, a link to the direct download page for that reader magnet that you gave them again. And this is less about making sure that they've gotten the free download, because they've already had like maybe 2 options to download it already. It's less about trying to making sure that they got the download, and more about nudging them to start reading, because a lot of people will download a book, put it on their to be read list, and then it sits on the pile. And so you really want to make sure that you get that book to the top of their to be read list, because if they never read the, let's say, prequel, if they never read the prequel, that's not going to get them into buying book 1 of the series, right? So you want to make sure that you get them into actually reading the prequel, so that they'll want the follow-up to it, right? And so having little nudges like, hey, you got this free book, don't forget that you have it, is a great thing to do. Again, the call to action would be, joining the Facebook group or forum, or again, having a question for your reader to engage with you on, about maybe their personal story related to why they like the genre that you write in, etc. Email 3 in your welcome sequence. So you want to send this either like 2 to 7 days after the reader has subscribed. The subject would probably be something like get the reader magnet. So this is where we're trying to find our champions, those people who are going to read and review our books. They might post on social media when we have a new release, or they might become beta readers for us, etc. So the subject of this would be get the follow-up to my reader magnet for free. And the content would be a link to the direct download page for your reader magnet. But the call to action, this is where you are trying to find your champions. The call to action would be a link to the review copy request page for the follow-up to your reader magnet. So let's talk a little bit about getting review requests. Before we jump into that, I'll check the Q&A real quick. Let's see. Would a free 7-part serial work as a freebie? Sure. Yeah, you could absolutely use a serial as a reader magnet. What if you suspect some of your subscribers are scammers? If you suspect they're a scammer, you can just remove them from your mailing list. That would be the first thing that you'd want to do. Let's see. Let me now check the chat, because we have both a Q&A and we have a chat. Let's see. Oof, Texas in the summer. Yes, it's like 100 degrees out right now. Yes, thank you, Nancy, for sharing the Story Origin email marketing guide as well. Again, like if you go to Story Origin, you go to the tutorials tab, there's a really in-depth guide that I wrote that contains a lot of this same or similar information that we're talking about today. It's all written out, so you can check it out anytime. Someone asked, what is KU an abbreviation for? It's Kindle Unlimited. It is, if you enroll your book in Kindle Unlimited, then you have agreed to an exclusivity clause with Amazon, where that book file can only be distributed through Amazon. This is important for review copies, actually, because a lot of authors have their books in KU, but they wanted to be able to distribute that book for free to people who say that they're interested in reviewing a copy and leaving a review for it. So one thing that you can do is you can actually buy Amazon prepaid book links, where with anyone that has that link can then redeem that link and add that book to their Kindle device or app. You can basically buy those links and then give them to people, and they can redeem them to get that book. In that way, the person who is getting that book is still getting the file through Amazon, because it's coming as an Amazon, gift copy essentially. And with Story Origin's review copies feature, you can choose to distribute that review copy either as a download through Story Origin, or you can choose to distribute Amazon prepaid book links. So the feature that we're going to start talking about in a second, we're going to start talking about review teams. You can distribute that that book download either through StoryOrigin as a download or via Amazon prepaid book links. So StoryOrigin has you covered regardless of whether or not your book is in KU and you have that exclusivity clause with Amazon. Let's see. Awesome. Okay, I think that's the questions. All right, so let's get into managing a review team real quick. So there's two parts to managing a review team. First, you want to vet the review copy requests that you get. So someone mentioned earlier, they get requests from people on Instagram who say that they're book reviewers. What you can do is you would want to vet and make sure, like when someone sends you a review copy request, you want to look at their like Amazon reviewer profile, BookBub reviewer profile, Goodreads reviewer profile to see that they actually read and review books in your genre. Because let's say you write steamy romance and a person has only ever reviewed clean romance books. Well, you might not want to give that person a copy of your book because they might feel like they should leave a review for it, but it's not the genre that they read and they're not going to like it because they only like clean romance and they don't like steamy romance. So you want to make sure that they actually read and review stuff that are in your subgenre. You also want to see that they have a history of completed reviews. Now, this is something that's a little bit more specific to StoryOrigin that you can't get if you're just doing this through your own, Google form or however you want to manage it. StoryOrigin gives you a history of a reader's completed reviews for review copies that they've requested through StoryOrigin. So if someone has requested 10 review copies on StoryOrigin, been approved for those 10, and they've completed the process for 9 of them, you can see that when they request a copy from you, you can see, oh, they've been approved for 10, they've completed 9. I know that this person is actually likely to read my book and leave a review and that they're actually going to do it. You can't do that if you're just, sort of managing things on your own and you don't have access to that community knowledge. The second part to managing a review team is tracking and follow-up. So if you are releasing if you are trying to get reviews on a pre-publication book, StoryOrigin's review copies feature works for both pre-publication books and post-publication. So if you want to get more reviews on a book that has already been published, you can still use StoryOrigin's review copies feature. But if your book has not been published yet, then the first point at which you would want to follow up with the reviewers after you've given them access to the book is you want to follow up when the book is published to say, hey, the book is published now. Please go and leave your reviews across Amazon or Goodreads or BookBub or wherever you said that you intended to leave a review. If they haven't completed that review within 2 weeks, it would be a good time to follow up with them and say, hey, saw that you haven't left a review yet. Here's the links again to go and do that. StoryOrigin automatically handles this for you. So when your book is published, you'd hit the mark as published button on StoryOrigin, sends that email out to your reviewers. If they haven't completed that review process within 2 weeks, they get a follow-up reminder email from StoryOrigin as well. So you don't need to worry about keeping some spreadsheet and checking it every day to see who you need to email, etc. Lastly, you would want to send them an email when they complete their review. And this is something that you would want to do. StoryOrigin doesn't automate this part because really this is about you wanting to build a personal relationship and rapport with your audience. So when they complete their review, it's always a good thing to reach out to them, say, hey, thanks for leaving a review. Really appreciated it. If you have another book in your series, this is also the point in time to say, hey, you want to request that you want to get the next book in the series for free? Here you go. Because they're, if they've completed the review for the first book and they liked it, that's a good time to say, hey, you can get the next one for free. So from a reader's side of things, here's what you want to do. You want to have a request form page where preferably you would have a way for them to read the sample of the book. That way they know whether or not it's a book that they're going to actually enjoy before they request a review copy. And that way readers that don't like that sample won't request a review copy, and then they won't feel like they need or should leave a review, even though they didn't really like the book. They can also say what sites that they intend to leave a review on. So you'll see here, there's a box where it says what sites do you intend to leave a review on. They would check Amazon. And if they check Amazon, then they would also leave the link to their Amazon reviewer profile so that you can vet their profile before approving their requests. And then on the reader's side, after they've been approved, they would get this completion tracking page, which shows them here they can download the full book here. And then step 2 is they write the review on StoryOrigin. This is really great for pre-publication copies, because if you aren't publishing the book for another 2 months, let's say, they can write the review on StoryOrigin as soon as they're done reading the book. And then when publication day comes and they get that email that says, hey, go leave your review on Amazon or BookBub or Goodreads, wherever, now that it's published, they can just copy that text from StoryOrigin and post it, cross-post it to those other platforms. And then lastly, step 3 is they just confirm that they cross-posted their reviews across the other sites where they said they intended to leave a review. From the author's side, on the vetting reviewers part, so after someone has requested a review copy from you, and they say where they intend to leave a review, you can check out, like I was saying before, you can check out the links to their reviewer profiles, you can check out their completion stats, and you can also check out other books, other review copies that they have requested from you. So if they've requested book 2 of my series from me on StoryOrigin, I can check and see, did they request book 1 from me, and did they actually complete their review at that time? So I can vet my reviewers before I actually approve them to download it. And then after you've approved them, they'll be added to your list of reviewers, your team tracking page. So you can see the list of reviewers that you have, the timeline on which you approved them, when they wrote their review, when they submitted, when they confirmed that they cross-posted it. You can see the review that they left on StoryOrigin as well. So that's the review copy side of things. Let me check again if we have any questions on any of this stuff. Let's see. A review copy request form to review the reader magnet, or an invitation to become a part of a review team. I'm not exactly sure what the question is here. Your review copy page on StoryOrigin would be different from the reader magnet landing page that you have on StoryOrigin. These are 2 different features. So a reader magnet landing page is someone requests a book from you and they're automatically added to your mailing list and they can get the download immediately. With a review copy feature, someone requests the book from you, you then are left in the driver's seat about whether or not they can actually download that book. You get to check their reviewer stats, etc. And then when you approve them, they get an email saying, hey, they've been approved. They can go download the book now. And here's the review process page where they would get the download and leave their review and all that stuff. Someone asks, is StoryOrigin compliant with Amazon and Goodreads terms of service, in that we are explicitly told not to require a review in exchange for an ARC? So terms of service on platform. So Amazon specifically says that you are able to give out copies of your book to people intending to leave a review on it. So they explicitly say advanced review copies are fine. The trouble is if you try to, quote, require a review. So there are 2 ways in which you can require a review. The first would be pretty complicated. I'd have to make some sort of legal agreement with you where I'm saying, I'm giving you this book and you are legally required to leave a review in exchange for that book. That would be me requiring you. Now, if you say you intend to leave a review and I give you the book, and there's no way for me to legally enforce that action, then I'm not requiring you to leave a review. It's just, hey, you said you would leave a review. Here's the book. And if you do or don't, that is what it is. I can't require you to leave a review. If I give you the book and you don't leave a review, that is certainly a possibility and it happens, right? So when someone requests a review copy from you on StoryOrigin and they download that copy, they're not required to leave a review. There is a possibility that they do not leave a review, right? And that's why the being able to check people's stats and reviewer profiles and stuff comes into play, because you can never require someone to leave a review. So that's why it's important to check out their stats and see, okay, is this the kind of person that actually does leave a review when they say they intend to. The second way in which you could require someone to leave a review is that you tell them they have to leave a review on the book before you actually give it to them, right? If you require them to leave a review on the book, on the product listing, before you actually give the book to them and then you give them the book, that would be requiring them to leave a review in exchange for the book. So yeah, you can't do that. So StoryOrigin, the way StoryOrigin does it, right, is they request the book, they say where they intend to leave a review, and then you get to check out the stats and approve them, and you can approve that request, and then that gives them access to be able to download it. And then from there, whether or not they leave a review is, up to them. StoryOrigin just tries to give you as much information as possible in order to see whether or not you think they will actually follow through. But no, StoryOrigin doesn't strictly require people to leave reviews. So that is the part where most authors are usually concerned regarding Amazon's and Goodreads terms of service. Let's see. Someone asked, does StoryOrigin send the follow-up emails automatically? When it comes to review copies, when on the day it's published, on the day that the book is published on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever, you would go to StoryOrigin and you would hit mark as published on StoryOrigin, and then StoryOrigin will send out the emails. And then 2 weeks after, if people have not reviewed it by that point, StoryOrigin will send those follow-up emails. Same process applies if the book is post-publication. So if the book's already published and you approve someone to download and review that book, if they haven't left a review, they haven't completed the review copy process within 2 weeks of having been able to download the book, StoryOrigin will automatically send them a follow-up reminder email. And that will all show up in the the timeline section on your team tracking on StoryOrigin. Let's see, other questions. Does everyone who leaves a review have a reviewer profile, or only people who have identified themselves as reviewers? So when people request a review copy on StoryOrigin, they say they say where they intend to leave a review. And then if they say that they're going to leave a review on Amazon, they would have to provide the link to their Amazon reviewer profile. If they don't say that they're going to leave a review on Amazon, then they don't need to leave their Amazon reviewer profile because they didn't say they were going to leave a review there. But if they say they're going to leave a review on Goodreads, they would need to leave their Goodreads reviewer profile link, etc. So yeah, Amazon, Goodreads, BookBub all have reviewer profiles. Other platforms don't have reviewer profiles, so you can't get links for them. But most reviewers are going to be reviewing on one of those 3 platforms where you can check out their past reviews on those platforms. All right, so let's take a step back, take a breather, Evan. All right, so we talked about your welcome sequence, right? So you're sending an email to let them know they got to get the freebie. You're sending them a nudge email to get started on reading that freebie. And then the last thing is you're trying to get them to join your review team. So then we talked about how to vet reviewers, how to follow up with them. Now, let's take a step back. We're going to talk about regular email campaigns. So you can certainly, regular email campaigns, I usually recommend sending regular email campaigns either once per week or once per month, like somewhere within that range. Generally, I recommend sending twice per month as a good cadence for a lot of authors. I think once per month is not frequent enough to stay really sort of top of mind with your readers. That being said, once per month is a good cadence for a lot of authors, and so a lot of authors choose that. I would say once per month is the minimum that you should be doing, though. If you only send a newsletter once every 2 months or once every 3 months, or only whenever you have a new release, you are going to see that your unsubscribe rates are higher. You're going to see that your open rates are lower and your click rates are lower, because people simply aren't used to getting emails from you. And so they might not remember who you are, or why they are on your mailing list. So if you send more regularly, you are more top of mind with that reader, and then they'll remember, okay, yeah, I got that person's reader magnet, and I've been following along with their personal journey and stories and writing updates, all of that stuff. For the content of your regular email campaigns, I recommend, again, personal stories, general interests, community happenings that you might have going on in your Facebook group or anything like that. And then deals, which are those books from cross promotions. And again, it's sort of these combination of you're trying to build rapport with your audience, and then you also want to be providing them value by having things that might interest them in checking out. So for the number of cross promotions I recommend putting in your newsletter, I would say somewhere between 2 to 4, maybe even up to 6 newsletter swaps. And then 1 to 3 group promotions, maybe even upwards of 4 group promotions in a newsletter. The main thing that you want to think about when deciding on what number of cross promotions you want to put in your newsletter all comes back to, you want to make sure that you're doing a good job of promoting the other authors and upholding your end of the bargain when you're participating in these cross promotions. So when I say that I'm going to promote your book to my mailing list, I get a specific tracking link for that cross promotion. And so you can see how many clicks I sent to your book. And then that information is also available on StoryOrigin when other authors are evaluating whether or not they want to request or accept a newsletter swap request from me or accept me into a group promo. They can see how many clicks I've sent to other cross promotions in the past. So it behooves me to do a good job in promoting those other books in those other group promos, because that means other authors are more likely to accept me when I request a newsletter swap with them or I do a group promotion with them. So you just want to make sure that, like, if you don't want to go overboard and put like 50 books into a single newsletter, because then you'll have we'll probably only send like maybe 1 click to every book in your newsletter or something like that. And other authors will be less likely to want to swap with you in the future, because they'll see that you're putting way too many books in your newsletter and that you're not really sending them enough clicks. So and all of that info is transparent in the community on StoryOrigin. So this is also just like one of the values of using StoryOrigin versus like setting up newsletter swaps and stuff like in Facebook groups and things like that, is you don't have the sort of community knowledge of who upholds their end of the bargain. Let's see. I'm going to check some of the questions real quick. If you write in different genres, should you have 2 different newsletters? I would say it depends. If your genres are somewhat closely related, I would say have 1 newsletter. Having multiple newsletters just makes a lot of work for yourself. So unless those audiences are really, really different, I would not split them up. So like, let's say you write steamy romance and then like cozy mysteries. Yeah, have those as be separate newsletters. Like steamy romance, cozy mystery, those audiences probably don't really overlap. Probably makes sense to have those as 2 different newsletters. And that will also help you perform better in your cross promotions, because you're making sure that those cross promotions where those books are going to the right audience, what they like, right? It's just gonna work out better. But like, let's say you're writing lit RPG and you're writing progression fantasy. These are 2 very closely related genres. You should just have 1 newsletter for them, right? So it kind of depends. It's really a case by case basis. But yeah, managing one newsletter is always easier than managing two. So as long as you think that the audiences are closely related enough, I would say just do one. Let's see. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go back to this. All right, so organizing group promos. This is one of the most underutilized big value things that you can do on StoryOrigin is organizing your own group promos. A lot of authors won't do this because it takes like a little bit time and takes a little bit more work. But by being the group promo organizer, you can put your books, make sure they appear at the top of the group promo landing page. You can give them a premium spot. So on a group promo landing page, every time a reader clicks on that landing page or refreshes the page, all of the books are scrambled. So everyone in that group promo is getting an equal chance of appearing at the top of that page. But if you're the group promo organizer, you can make it so that certain books will always appear at the top of the page. And so you can make sure your books always appear at the top of the page. And that just gives them a little bit more visibility. So it can be a great way to get more out of being in group promos. And it's not that much work. Essentially, you create the page on StoryOrigin, which takes about 5 minutes to fill out a form, maybe not even 5 minutes. You create a banner image, which is, find a stock image, throw some text on there with the name of the group promo and the dates that it's running. BookBrush has a tool called the Custom Creator, which is really easy to use. Highly recommend it. But even if you don't want to do that, let's say you're familiar with like PowerPoint, you can drop an image into PowerPoint, slap some text on it, and then save that as an image. That works too, whatever way. It doesn't need to be complicated or fancy or use Photoshop or anything like that. The second part of organizing a group promo is recruiting participants. So on StoryOrigin, you can find a list of upcoming group promos that authors can apply to, and authors will just search through these when they have newsletters going out. And so you don't really need to do anything here. It'll just automatically be listed and authors will apply. The other thing I recommend is cross-posting that, though. Cross-post the group promo in various Facebook groups for where authors will organize, arrange cross promotion, join group promotions like these, just because it helps you build a closer relationship with those other authors and helps you get a little bit more visibility. And so you might get a few more authors in your group promo. And the more authors in a group promo, generally the more successful and more eyeballs that everyone is going to get on their books. So I also have a code set up here. So we'll go back. I'll answer some more questions in the Q&A. But for anyone that has to go, you can use the promo code WIP2390 to get 30% off your first year if you are on the yearly billing cycle. So that'd make your first year $70 instead of $100. And the code expires in 2 weeks. So check that out. And then I'm going to, let's see, check for some more questions. But yeah, thank you guys for having me here today. And I will answer any more questions you have. Let's see. Can you promote or give away audiobooks? So I'm going to actually hop over here to my StoryOrigin dashboard, and we can actually take a quick look at the StoryOrigin dashboard. So here, here's all the different things that you can do: reader magnets, universal book links, review copies, beta copies, direct downloads, audiobook review copies. So if you produce your audiobook through ACX or Findaway, or you have Kobo promo codes or audiobooks.com promo codes, basically there's various providers of promo codes where readers can download the book for free through Audible or Authors Direct, etc., and listen to it. And then you can distribute those promo codes through StoryOrigin, and all of the features that you get with the review copies feature we were talking about, like being able to vet their reviewer profiles, see how many of their reviews they've actually completed, etc. You get all those same features when you distribute audiobook promo codes through StoryOrigin. So you can know that since you only usually get a handful of these codes, like 25 or 30 at a time and stuff, you can always make sure that those codes are going to be going to people who will actually leave a review. Someone asked,
Hi, yes, I think we lost connection. Evan, are you here? Give me a shout out in the chat if you can hear me. Anybody that's here right now. Okay. All right. Let's give Evan, thank you. Let's give Evan a second and see if he's able to get back on. Oh, here he is. Let's see. Yeah, Shirley, I am the female voice. Okay, welcome back, Evan. Sorry about that.
no worries. Yeah, I think I don't know if I lost internet for a second there or something, or what happened. But yes, are we still good, Nancy?
Yep, we're still good. We're still good. We do need to, we have about 6 minutes left.
Okay, great. Yeah, so even if you're not published yet on, even if you're not published yet, you can join StoryOrigin, stay on the free tier and use the goal trackers feature. And you can, track your daily word count and stuff. And StoryOrigin gives you nice visualizations to tell whether or not you're on track to actually hitting your deadline, or whether or not you're ahead of schedule and stuff like that. So I would say sign up now, take advantage of stuff like that, which are helpful even if you're pre-publication. And then again, focus on trying to get started with building your mailing list as soon as possible, so that you have an audience to launch to, and not just launching to crickets. So you can start working on that reader magnet and publish, put that up on StoryOrigin before you publish book 1 in your series or what have you. All right, let's see. Yep. Yeah, if you go on StoryOrigin, if you just scroll down the homepage, the page will list everything that you can do there. I also recommend checking out the tutorials page, like I mentioned, by hitting that tutorials tab. You can see all those in-depth guides. A lot of stuff that we talked about today is in this 0 to 1,000 plus mailing list subscribers. It basically is like a very long list of questions of how do I do all of this step-by-step basis. So check that one out under the text guides. And then also there's great case studies there from other authors about how they've built their mailing lists, what are things that they do to engage their readers, how they've put together their welcome sequences, etc. And then, pricing, as I mentioned. So going back to, when should I join StoryOrigin? These are the things that you can get on StoryOrigin for free. So, that's using the direct downloads feature, which is awesome. Using the universal book links, using the word tracker. And then once you want to start doing cross promotions and to build your audience and really sort of multiply your reach, and collect feedback from readers with beta copies or review copies, etc., that's when you would want to go up to the standard plan, which is the $10 per month or $100 per year. Awesome. I think that's all the questions. I think I got them all. Nancy, do you know if I missed any?
Let's see. Did you answer the question from Louise about how far in advance of publication people should sign up for Story Origin?
Yeah. I think I got that one. I think
Okay.
people, you
Okay.
sign up. You can sign up now and then get on the free plan and
Yeah.
upgrade whenever you think you're ready to take advantage of those other features, which might be more relevant once you actually have works published.
So I have a follow-up question to that. So you should sign up even if your OG is not ready. I mean, should you be done writing the book or?
No, you don't need to be done writing a book. Like you can use the goal trackers feature even before you've even started writing to say, okay, I want to write from this date to this date. I need to hit this many words, or that's my plan. And Story Origin will give you graphs and stuff. And that comes on the free tier. So you don't need to pay for Story Origin in order to use that feature. And then like the next thing, so Story Origin sort of handles the whole publication process, right? From goal trackers, then you would use the beta copies feature to collect feedback on that early manuscript. Then once that manuscript's gotten to a point where you're ready to publish it, you could put it up as a review copy on Story Origin so you can start to find interest in reviewers. And then once the book is published, then you would create the universal book link for it, where you can then share that to direct people to the sales pages where it's available at various retailers. So it sort of handles that whole end-to-end process for you as an author.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I know, and I saw somebody say this in the chat, that people are really looking for an all-in-one solution because it's hard to use all these different tools and get them all to work with each other. So it's really nice to have kind of that top to bottom solution. I think that is it for the question. So if you want to say some parting words, and then we will close this out. I'm going to send out the replay with all of the links and the resources within 24 hours, and it will also be on YouTube. So I will let Evan say goodbye, and then we'll go.
Awesome. Thank you all for having me again. Appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out with me. Again, if anyone wants to check it out, it's storyoriginApp.com. And you can always, if you have any other follow-up questions, hit the contact page. You will see my email address is right there. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. My inbox is always open.
Thank you so much, Evan. And goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.